my faith in God, however this ultimately turns out for me and my family, I know that it's His will and that He will use this for His glory, whichever way it turns out. And I just have complete and total faith.
Welcome to In Good Company. Let's talk about your own journey.
Okay.
And, you know, this is entirely up to you what you want to share or not share. But one of the things that, you know, again, I emphasize is that, you know, when you get some news that's not the best, how you handle it, again, it doesn't matter what you've been through in your life, you know, what you've done. Every new situation is brand new. And so do you want to share a little bit about what you're dealing with?
Sure. A few weeks ago, well, I guess it's been 6 weeks ago or so now, I had finally been able to go see an ENT. And that's kind of a story in itself that maybe we'll get to talk about a little bit today. But he had done a biopsy on my tongue and wasn't really sure what he was going to find, didn't anticipate it being cancer. And I kept waiting, you know, I kept looking on my chart to see if I could see the results and stuff yet, and didn't show up. And so I'm thinking, okay, you know, that this, if it's just inflammation, this should have been here already. And so whenever I got the results, it was like 4:30, and I just checked it at 3:30. Looked again at 4:30, right? You know, I was kind of getting stuff packed up and ready to leave, and it said it had the results there, and I thought, oh, great, you know. So I looked at it and pulled it open, and it said abnormal, and then right under there it said malignant. And I thought, well, crud, here we go, you know. And then it was like my world just kind of stopped for a minute, and it was like everything was going in the opposite direction. It was just a strange feeling. And I was like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? You know? And so we had one of our staff members send us stuff here, and I went to her, and she had somebody in her office, and I went and sat back down at my desk and just kind of staring straight ahead. And she comes in and she's like, Kim, what is it? Do I need to shut the door? And I said, yeah, shut the door, you know, shut the door. And she's pulling the blinds, and I said, I got the test results back. I said, it's cancer, you know. But being able to have somebody that I could talk to instantly that was going to listen to me was just incredible, you know. And if she wouldn't have been here, I had 5 other people I could have gone to and pulled in to the office. But just having somebody that I trusted be able to sit there with me in that moment and just kind of reevaluate what I needed to do. And so she even followed me home because I wouldn't let her drive me home. I'm like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. And she followed me home, and I didn't want to tell my husband while he was still at work. He can tend to drive a little fast on a good day. So I knew if I said anything to him, there's probably going to be a, you know, ticket involved. So we just hung around the house, and I got to show her my new sewing room and stuff like that, and waited for Billy to come in. And so whenever he got in, you know, we were just, you know, kind of talking a little bit. And then she said, do you want me to leave or you want me to stay? And I said, no, go ahead and just stay a minute. And so Billy's kind of like, he said, what is it? And I just told him, I said, Billy, the results came back in. I said, it's cancer. And he was like, you know, really? You could almost see his world stopping and going in the opposite direction for a little bit too, you know? And so it was just really good to, I don't know, just to be able to have that extra support there that day. For me to wait for him to come home, I kind of got to tell him how I wanted to tell him. You know, he wasn't we could be there together and I wouldn't have to worry about him coming home. And so then I had to, I did call the doctor's office before I left that, after getting the results, and my doctor wasn't in. And she said, I will show this to another doctor if that's what you want. And I said, please do, And so I didn't get a call from her that day. And it was a weekend. And so I waited. And on Monday, I get a phone call and she said that she's going to that the other doctor, my doctor was still not in for that week. But she was going to show another doctor and that she'd get back with me. And then when she called back, I was at a different doctor's appointment. And so I couldn't get the phone. And so she left me a message and told me what, the doctor said that, yes, it's fine. Nothing's going to change in a week. Go ahead and keep that appointment with a regular doctor. But for her to know that she's going to have a surgery in her near future. And so I thought, okay, it's kind of what I figured because I had been Googling, that weekend. And so that afternoon, that was probably about 11 or so in the morning. And that afternoon, about 3:30, my phone rings and it's the doctor's office again. So I answered it. It was that nurse again. And she said, I left you a message. I just wanted to make sure that you got it. And I wanted, if you have any more questions or anything, and I was like, thank you so much for calling me back. To me, that was something she didn't have to do. Her job was already done. She had left me the message. She could have walked away from it. But she cared enough. And I knew with a new diagnosis like that I was probably a little anxious. And she cared enough to call me back to make sure I got the message, make sure I didn't have any more questions. And that meant everything to me. And so my next doctor visit, the lady that took me back, I looked at her name and I thought, you were the one that called me. And she said, I was. And I said, I hope you're a hugger because you're fixing to get hugged, And I said, I want to tell you that you went above and beyond. You had already done your job, but you took the time out to call me and make sure that everything was okay and that I had my answers that I needed. And I said, that meant everything to me. And I said, I want to tell you how much I appreciate that. And I said, and your doctor's going to know how much I appreciated that too. So when I told him, he said, well, let me go get her. I said, I've already talked to her. I said, I just wanted you to know.
Yeah.
So it really meant a lot to me. Really
That's
did.
super cool.
2 minutes out of her life. And I'll never forget her.
It's the little things.
It is the little things. Yes. Yes. So, so through the journey, it's been a long journey. This has been going on for 5-6 years now, that I have talked to people. They have looked at my mouth. They have told me that it was lichen planus that I had, that it was okay. Maybe my tooth was rubbing on my tongue. It was fitted with a night guard to see if that would help. And I think the one thing that I want everybody that is listening to this and watching this today is if you get a diagnosis from your physician or your dentist or anybody else, and there has not been testing done to back up what they're saying, you need to ask for it. This could have been easily solved 5 years ago when I was really when all this really started. We could have found out what it was before it turned to cancer. But now here we are, and I just want to tell the medical field that we're dealing with people's lives, and what they say, your patients take as gospel, and they believe you and they trust you. If you see something, you need to get the testing done. It took 20 minutes to get the biopsy done. If we would have done a biopsy several years ago, we could have figured it out earlier, and we would be in a whole different place than what we're in right now. you know. But my faith is strong. I have an amazing support group with everybody here at work, my family, my church group. What's done in my body is already done. And so the only thing that we have left to do now is to walk through the treatment and the surgeries and things like that to see what we need to do on the other side. But through all of this, I really wanted people to not go through what we're having to go through right now, and to please be a self-advocate. I'm a nurse. There's part of me I'm kind of beating myself up that I should have known to ask for this. I should have pushed a little harder. But as a medical person, if I'm not going to push harder, your patients aren't going to push harder either. And we need to do our due diligence. And we need to make sure we are like this nurse that took the extra step and went ahead and found the answers for me that I needed. Like this doctor, the first time that I'm seeing him, and he only gave it a 1% chance of being cancer. He said, but I can't in good conscience let you leave here without a biopsy. He said, are you okay with that? And I said, please. I know something is wrong. Something's not right. I don't know what this is, but the pain is so incredible that the reason I even asked to go see the ENT was I couldn't take the pain anymore, And I sent my doctor a message and I said, I can't live like this anymore. I've got to have some help. And I don't care if it is steroids. I don't care if I am diabetic. I've got to have some relief. I've got to figure out what they can do to help me. So I went in thinking it was going to be put on a course of steroids at the ENT. And it turns out that we've got another whole thing that we've got to go through.
Yeah.
But
how many clinicians did you see prior to the CNT regarding this issue?
There were 3 doctors at one hospital. Started off, years ago, 11, 12 years ago. And then this one, it was 2 dentists and 1 physician.
What's your treatment?
My treatment is a week in a week, a little bit less than a week, I'll be having surgery. And so they're going to remove part of my tongue where the cancer is. The cancer that I have is very aggressive. For me to have had the cancer, the place on my tongue has been there for probably about 11 months. As aggressive as this cancer is, it should already be through my body. And it's not. And so I am just so thankful for that. So that'll be surgery coming up just this next week. The doctor that I have in KU, I've already had a PET scan down here. The PET scan didn't show anything, didn't show any lymph node involvement, nothing. So when I get over to KU, he wanted to do a CAT scan. And I thought, why are we doing a CAT scan when a PET scan's already shown? And the nurse told me, she said, a lot of times the lymph nodes in the neck don't really show up very well on a PET scan. And she said, this doctor likes to go and do a CAT scan to look at it. So sure enough, on this CAT scan, it shows that I have 2 lymph nodes that they're pretty sure it's metastatic to there. And it's all on the left side. So far, the right side hasn't really been affected as far as we know at this point. I do have another area that I'm going to, I'm sure the doctor will look at and biopsy that. But this doctor in KU sent for my specimens that I had done, from the biopsy. And through that, he found that I don't have lichen planus, that all this time what had been diagnosed as something that really wouldn't ever cause a problem is actually dysplasia. So it's a pre-cancer, and I've had that in my mouth. That's the part that I've had in my mouth for years and years now.
We'll return to this podcast episode in just a moment, but first I have to ask you, please like, share, and subscribe to the In Good Company podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. It goes a long way to get this episode and others into the feeds of people who want to learn more about general wellness and aging better. And now back to the show.
You said KU?
KU.
Yeah. It's a great system.
I was really impressed with them.
Yeah.
I really was. And the doctor he was very gentle, but he was very straightforward and very, very kind. I had sent a message this morning when I got to work because I wasn't sure if I was going to have a trach and a feeding tube, because that's what the doctors here had thought. And so I sent a message and got a message back just within a few hours that at this point, I'm not going to have that.
That's good.
So that part was really good.
Yeah, that's really good.
So I was very thankful for that. So that was some good news today. And then also while he's in there, he told me, he said, I think that I can get everything on your tongue. He said, I think in time, he said, we'll see probably a 95% chance of cure on your tongue. He said, but your mouth is a mess. And so while he has me under, he's going to do multiple biopsies of the dysplasia. And he said that if it's showing cancer cells, then he's going to go ahead and cut out what he can. And he said, but he said, it may come to a point, he said, depending on what it's showing, that you may be he said, I may not be prepared for what I'm finding, and you may not be prepared for what I'm finding. And he said, at that point, we'll stop and we'll reevaluate what we need to do. But he said, all of this really needs to be cut out. But he said, I wouldn't have any quality of life at that point. And he said he was concerned about that. I wouldn't be able to swallow, eat, taste anything. And so he said that he wanted to try other treatments first before something like that happened. So we'll figure out. I feel like there's at least a partial plan.
Yeah.
And that we're just going to walk through this like, so many patients that have come before us. And we're just going to walk through it with as much grace and dignity as we can, and hopefully come out good on the other end. If it's not good on the other end, then I still want to be able to help people that come after me.
Well, and your faith is so strong. Could you attest to that?
Oh gosh, there's been so many times in my life that I can just, even going through it, I could see where God already was. And it's, having Katie, our daughter with Down syndrome, when I was 23, I wasn't a nurse or anything. And I never was angry at God. Whenever she was born, it was like, I remember unwrapping her and looking at her. Okay, I see it, I looked at her little hands. I knew what to look for. It was like I had been prepared for her my whole life. I knew what to look for. Like I've told you before, Helen Keller was my hero growing up. I read everything I could about her. Her will and her determination was I just couldn't imagine somebody that couldn't see, hear, or speak would have the willpower to do all of the things that she did. And she died a year after I was born. She died in 1968. But she will always be my hero. My kids, I've always told them about Helen Keller. That wasn't an astronaut, I would walk around the house and close my eyes and feel around, see what it was like. I was just really fascinated with her life and what she was able to accomplish. And so I feel like that helped me a lot with Katie. I wanted Katie to have a good life. And so whenever I had her, I remember telling God, thank you so much for giving her to me. but you're going to have to tell me what to do with her, just like he had to tell me what to do with the boy, because I didn't know what to do with the boy when I had him first either. I was like, I don't know anything about boys. I just know about girls, you know. But, you know, that was kind of a time in my life that I could have been very bitter or very angry, you know. Now, I did get angry at God one time through all of that, you know, and it was with her heart. And we knew from about a month old that she had a heart murmur. That was, she had an ASD, and most kids with Down syndrome will have a VSD. Hers was on the top. They called it least impressive, and, you know, that it would never cause a problem. When we went in, when she was about 9 months old, we would go every 6 weeks or so and get it checked out. And about 9 months old, we went in, and just from the doctor's demeanor and the way he was doing things, I knew something was wrong. And that ultrasound was taking forever. And he brought me into his office to talk to me, and he usually would talk to me in the waiting room. So I knew something hadn't shown up right. And he told me that, you know, that she had one chamber that was engorged with blood. She had one chamber that was getting hardly any blood. The blood that had just been oxygenated was going right back into the lungs again, which meant nothing to me at that point other than, I don't think this sounds very good. And we were going to have a heart cath. And I remember asking him, I said, well, if we have a heart cath, will she still have to have surgery? And he just kind of turned and looked at me, and he said, you don't understand. If she doesn't have surgery and have it soon, she's going to die. He said, there's something else wrong here. The hole in her heart is tiny. It shouldn't be causing all of this. He said, there's something else wrong. He said, we have to figure out what that is, or she's not going to make it. And so, again, I was like, everything stopped and went in reverse again. And we went back home, and we called my mother and father to come and be with the other two children while we were, you know, having to take Katie for all of these things. And Dusty I had to take him into the doctor, and it was his tooth, and I don't do teeth. I don't want to see him wiggle. I don't want anything to do with the teeth. So I was driving to it was the Army hospital, and I was driving to the Army hospital, and all of a sudden I just got so angry, and I was so mad, and I was mad at God, and we had a conversation. I bet he still remembers it too. I was mad, and I just was like, how dare you? I never said why me when Katie was born. I never said why Katie. I said the one thing that I held on to was that she was going to have a good life. And I said, now you're taking that away from her. She's going to be on oxygen the rest of her life. That is not a good life. She's not going to be able to do anything because of her heart. And you're taking that away. I was beyond angry. So I drove probably a little faster than I should to that doctor's office. Everything was fine with Dusty. Got him back, got the kids and stuff back home. My parents came in to take care of the two older ones while we took Kate. The doctor came out, and he was just smiling. And he was just, you know, explaining to me, you know, what I heard was wah, 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 because I had no idea what he was really talking about. And he was talking about the hole in her heart was huge. He said it's the size of a quarter. And, you know, your heart's about the size of your fist, and your little 9-month-old heart's about that big. And I just asked him, I said, why are you smiling? You know, I mean, that was devastating news. And he said it was just as easy to fix a big hole as it was a little hole. And he explained to me what they were going to do. And he said, but this is going to solve the problem. He said it never showed up on any of the ultrasounds, and she had had a lot. Never showed up in any of the ultrasounds, but this is what's causing a problem. We can fix it. And he said, I do not know why this is showing up so differently now. And for me, I was like, I do. I know what it is. It was God. And I think for me at that point, I think that was maybe the first time that I realized that sometimes to get my attention was that sometimes I had to be brought down to a level for me to realize that God is there. And he's been there the whole time. And he didn't leave. And he didn't leave Katie. And he didn't leave me. But I wouldn't have realized that he was there to the extent that he was there if I hadn't been brought to my knees. And so for that, I will forever be thankful, because it's been a lesson for me that I've never forgotten. And I look for him in the little things. I look for him. A few years ago, I had to have my hip replaced, and I didn't know what was wrong, but I couldn't hardly walk into the store, you know. And I remember just praying, God, please let me find something close to the store, because I just didn't know if I could get in there and make it, you know, to get a hold of a buggy. And I would just pull down. I'd go down another aisle. Somebody would back out of the very first one right in front of the door, and it would be like, that was you. Mm-hmm. I know that was you, you know. And so sometimes that silver lining, sometimes you really have to look for it, but it's there if you want to find it. My faith in God, whatever this turns out to be, however this ultimately turns out for me and my family, I know that it's his will and that he will use this for his glory, whichever way it turns out. And I just have complete and total faith. He's shown me too many times what he's done and what he can do. And so I'm just giving it all over to him. And just to use me however he needs to use his story.
You're my hero.
You're my hero.
You really are. You just, yeah.
A true inspiration for all of us, Kim.
Yeah.
Well, it's, you know, sometimes you have to realize how much, if you're sick of eating gravel yet, you know, and, you know, I think I told you, Spencer, one time that people will talk about God being my co-pilot, and that God's not my co-pilot. God drives that vehicle. I'm the one that gets out. God doesn't leave me on that street corner. I'm the one that says, pull over, I'm getting out. And he just circles and waits for me to say, okay, I'm ready to get back in. And he stops and lets me back in, you know. But I don't know what I would do without my belief system. I really don't.
Very well said.
Really good, Kim.
I just want to remind everybody again that if you get a diagnosis and there is not testing behind it, please ask for it. That is your right to be a self-advocate, and it's your right to ask for the testing that goes along with these things, especially when it's something that can ultimately affect the rest of your life, you know. If I would have had any idea that what I was first diagnosed with was not what it was, then I would have asked for it. But I didn't have any idea, but there was no testing done either. And so that was partially on me. So ask for that testing, ask for the proof.
Well, it's sad that in today's healthcare world, you have to be such a self-advocate, but it's so true. It really is.
Yeah. Everybody's busy, you know, even the doctors, everybody's busy. And just to remember that everybody's human too. The doctors are human. Mm-hmm. The dentists are human. Labs are human. You know, it's okay. It's all right. But ask for that testing.
Yeah. And those of you who are clinicians who might be listening right now, just go that extra mile, go that extra step.
Yes.
Advocate for your people. Do that test, even if the insurance company bucks the test or whatever. Just push as hard as you can, because there are people out there that need advocates. They don't know what to advocate for sometimes. And ultimately, we always want to just believe the good news. But sometimes we need to ask for more, just to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
Go the extra mile.
Absolutely. Every time.
So good.
So good. Kim, thank you so much.
Thank y'all. I appreciate you.
Thank you. We appreciate you. We love you.
I love you guys too.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
And we'd love to stay connected. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and on Instagram at In Good Company Elder Care Podcast.
You can also find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at IGC Pod, and on TikTok at IGC Elder Care Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to In Good Company. I'm John Ray, and I've been joined by my amazing co-host, Spencer Ernst. Special thanks to our executive producer, Alex Wallace, for helping bring this show to life. Until next time, take care, and remember, you are always in good company.